This is the Analysis in Chains with Nathan Williams and Neil Kieran.
Welcome to Analysis in Chains. I'm Nathan Williams, and joining me today is Max Rye, the founder and CEO of DeepCloud AI. DeepCloud is a decentralized AI-driven cloud computing platform. They're based out of Singapore, doing an IEO upcoming, and it's exciting times for them. So thank you, Max, for coming on the show.
Hey, Nathan, thank you very much, and thank you for hosting us.
So tell me a bit about the project. What is DeepCloud AI?
DeepCloud is a decentralized cloud computing platform, and besides it just being an everyday a platform, that there's many of them out there. One of the issues that we looked at solving was reducing latency. As we have so many different nodes that are going to be online, one of the biggest problems in the space is actually making sure that the latency is reduced to the point where it's usable by enterprises. So that's what we're doing, and our product has already been used now for the last several months.
That sounds really exciting, but maybe we could just back up a little bit, because maybe some of our listeners don't know exactly what decentralized AI-driven cloud computing is. What exactly would you use this for, and what is it disrupting?
So what we're doing is we're really in the space competing with the likes of AWS, Google, or providing similar service to them, to our enterprises that these other big players provide. The difference really is small businesses, folks who have powerful systems at home, or even average folks are able to contribute their resources, which all come up to our cloud fabric, and enterprises or businesses are able to utilize that. And in turn, they're able to earn money from it.
So when you're talking about decentralized cloud computing, does it mean that anyone can sign up their processing power? I can take my home computer and put it up online, or do I need a server rack with a certain minimum guaranteed uptime? Like, what are the requirements if I want to contribute my computing power to this decentralized cloud computing platform?
Sure. What you're able to do is you're able to download our client software. And once you download that client software, it'll run some tests on your machine during the process. And every 5 minutes, it sends back a report as far as availability is concerned on our platform, on our fabric. That lets us know the quality of service and the quality of your computer. And from that point, we are able to give you rewards and help you earn money based on your uptime and all those different factors.
That's interesting. So I could actually put up my my home computer. It's just I might not get the same rewards for it as I would if I had a really top of the line server or a mainframe.
Absolutely, that's right.
That's interesting. How do companies or individuals determine the business case? Like, is it possible to sort of see how profitable it'll be?
Sure. At the moment, our MVP, what folks have been able to do is they've already been able to host websites and decentralized applications in a containerized manner. And at the moment, they're using the system. It's working pretty well. When it comes to selling this to enterprises, we still have a ways to go, along with the rest of the industry, to be able to get the type of trust from enterprises so they can start transitioning over their workloads. So currently, it's smaller, much smaller enterprises that are using it, and a lot of this is going to be building internal in-house systems, in-house software that can run on top of it.
So why are enterprises, even though they're smaller or bigger or whatever, why are enterprises choosing to run on DeepCloud AI instead of going with Amazon or Google?
Pricing is a big issue. We're able to provide price. However, in third world countries, AWS and Google simply don't offer, they don't have data centers close enough to some of the areas that they're servicing these enterprises. So with our system, we're really able to, say, for example, areas in Mexico or South America are able to have nodes running there on our fabric. And if enterprises in a local regional area want to be able to get fast service, they can do that with DeepCloud, where currently AWS and Google they haven't been able to. So we actually ran some tests back in November. We were a part of an IoT conference, and we were in Silicon Valley, and we were able to show that we were about 10 times faster than AWS in certain regions.
Oh, wow. This is really interesting. And I guess I shouldn't be surprised because, we've been in sort of a crypto interest bubble and running for about 2 years. And every time I meet an interesting use case, it tends to be 10x as applicable to areas like developing world or rural areas or places where there's not as much technology infrastructure and there's an opportunity to leapfrog, as opposed to being in competing directly with the big guys who are sitting in California. What's been your experience so far of which regions have been most open to this?
I would say some of the biggest regions are gonna be Mexico. We have a lot of our partners there. It's been quite significant demand there, and we also see Latin America. So one of the issues that you have to understand, the last mile is a big problem that many of these cloud computing companies have an issue with. And if the listeners out there don't know what the last mile is, that means the ISP point from that point to the people's home, right? So Google or AWS data servers can sit somewhere else, but they can only provide fast service up to a certain point. And the last mile is where they usually have their biggest problem. And that's actually where DeepCloud shines the most, is within communities, within areas where decentralized nodes are able to provide low latency solutions.
That's really interesting. So, what sort of like you've mentioned latency a number of times? Is this a big problem for other decentralized solutions?
So, yes, one of the reasons why is because many of them are able to allow people to share their computer. However, without solving the issue of latency, we don't necessarily have anything that's usable for enterprises. Enterprises want to be able to run fast service. Our algorithms, our AI algorithms, and the system fabric that we put together is uniquely able to solve that. So just like how Google Maps is able to route you through traffic, the fastest way, our AI algorithms are able to do the same thing. If you have 100 nodes within a certain area, it can match up the resources with an enterprise to the point where it can provide the best and fastest connection.
Well, I can imagine how it would be. You have certain nodes coming online and then seeing some sort of AI determining the closest distance or the shortest distance or via latency to get from my computing needs to a server that can handle it. But I'm wondering, I guess, how difficult is that, right? Like we often love to see AI paired with blockchain or decentralized solutions. But if you don't have one sort of network state and one computer controlling the entire environment, like how difficult is it to actually deploy an AI for for a problem like this?
So within certain regions, we have master nodes. Master nodes have the extra responsibility of making sure its regional nodes are able to, they're able to pass certain tests and are verifying their uptime, and they get scored just like many other scoring systems that are out there. So with a host of different parameters, they upload all every 5 minutes or so the up the system resources, hard drive quality, all the different things you would want to know as a master node, and are able to make sure that we're able to provide efficient and fast services that are reliable.
And these master nodes, what is it required? So that was not so much the English. What is required to run a master node? If I wanted to run one, would I be able to?
Sure. You have to be able to stake a certain amount of tokens, which just shows how serious you are, and it locks in a certain amount of tokens. You do get incentivized by earning extra tokens. It's usually a much more powerful system, as it's going to be running a lot more work loads on it. And following that, it's able to run a lot of extra responsibilities, like being able to have those AI services running on it.
Okay, and why did you choose that architecture as opposed to a centralized service? Like, couldn't you mimic what you're doing without doing this on a blockchain, but just having a company that allows other companies to set up nodes with traditional contracts?
It really, the decentralized mechanism really heavily incentivizes communities. And one thing that we're able to do with the decentralized system is it really provides a vast amounts of redundancy. So we always see systems and networks going down. One thing that we're able to do with this system is if several nodes go down, we always have other nodes that are moving that have redundant ability. That's one unique thing about that decentralization that centralized systems still have an issue with.
Okay, but I mean, if I think about maybe a different industry that has a similar architecture, I'm thinking like Uber, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uber has a decentralized staff, so to speak,
Right.
but they have a centralized coordinator, and if there's a lack of service in certain areas, then they can increase the price to incentivize more people to join. And I'm wondering,
Oh, I
was
understand.
there any?
I understand what you
Yeah.
mean now. In that respect, we do have a deep cloud team that manages the overall system.
Okay, so you actually do have sort of a centralized influence or a team within DeepCloud that helps coordinate the pricing or the redundancy to make sure there's service.
Absolutely. I mean, just as you mentioned earlier, Airbnb and Uber, they have to have uh, some mechanism and a team that is able to fulfill supply and demand. We have to be a big part of that, making sure that we help scale it out. And that also comes into play when we're bringing enterprises on board that's going to utilize a lot of these services. And we have to also play a bigger role in incentivizing certain communities where we need some of these resources. So our team has to play a big role in making sure that this system grows.
Okay, so help me understand then, what is the main role of blockchain in this? If you've got a team that is helping it, is blockchain used for other purposes, or?
Sure. First of all, the blockchain incentives. Aside from the master nodes going to be running our system, we have smart contracts that are on our platform. There's a certain level of transparency that many of the nodes are able to have.
Mhm.
We also build uh, alongside enterprises that require these type of services on the blockchain.
Do you have plans to go more decentralized in the future?
Absolutely. Those are definitely some of the plans. Initially, we have to be much more hands-on to ensure the success and scalability.
And what has your experience been with the enterprises themselves? I mean, what I've experienced is that enterprises love the idea of decentralization, or at least the word decentralization, but may lack understanding as to what it actually means sometimes. So I'm wondering what's been your experience about how open people are to decentralization, and what sort of the enterprise players are looking for when they're talking about cloud services.
You're absolutely right. Enterprises are looking at some of the benefits of blockchain when it comes to microtransactions and speed. However, are still really wary of uh, blockchain and even decentralized cloud compute in general, because there is, first of all, the whole space itself is still continuing to grow and mature. We know that a lot of these products are continually iterating, and many of them are not ready for prime time yet. They don't necessarily have uh, the scalability built in. So I think many of the enterprises are waiting for some of these products to be ready to go for prime time. The other issue is many of them don't really trust their entire businesses with blockchain yet, and there's good reason for that, because we still have some work to do. But for us, our experience is really that we have to be uh, the change that we want to see. We have to build. I know we have to build.
It's very inspirational.
We have to build our products. We got to build stuff on our own chain, on our own cloud compute. If we want to see this happen, and if we want to see the adoption, it's a chicken egg situation. If we don't have enterprises and we don't have usage for the cloud compute, then we don't have resource providers. We don't have people who are willing to share their cloud computing if they're not going to get paid, right? So we have to be a part of that demand side. So if we can't get enterprises to pay up a lot of money, we also have to start building our own products that customers use, that can build demand. So people can start sharing their resources and earning money. That's something that we're doing.
Whenever I meet corporates who are interested in blockchain, it's usually the largest players, right? A lot of the largest players have been making big investments into blockchain. They've set up blockchain teams, exploring innovation aspects of how it can make their business more efficient or more trustworthy, or give them bigger market share. It's been rare that I've encountered smaller enterprises or medium-sized enterprises that are as interested. Most of them that I've encountered have been very focused sort of on the day-to-day running of their business, and catering to a specific niche, and they didn't have a lot of extra capacity to look into adopting a new and type of decentralized architecture. Now, when we're talking with you say that a lot of your early adopters have been in these smaller businesses that are based in maybe non-English speaking areas of the world, like Mexico and Latin America. How have you approached market entry, and how have you approached getting that adoption? Like, how do you reach out to that demographic?
It's a good question. We do this without using buzzwords. We do this without. we,
You don't want to Bitcoin blockchain your decentralization to the 21st century to the moon in your Lambo?
exactly. We don't. We go in there and we are helping them put together solutions, and we just discuss some of the benefits that blockchain already provides without actually going too far into all the buzzwords like you mentioned, and we help these enterprises build an end-to-end solution. That's basically what we're doing with Mexico, and a new vehicle registration system that we're helping build out in Mexico. We're not going in to discuss all the masternode and everything else that we have going on. It's just simply, hey, listen, there's transparency here. This is where we use our AI, and this is the app that we're building out. This is for the government and police. We go through the entire system just like any other software development company or a IT company coming in to help them build out solutions. And blockchain happens to be a part of the overall solution. And that's what I keep pushing to a lot of these folks that are out there. People and enterprises do not want to hear all the buzzwords. They want to see what the benefits are, and they want to see how they can get started and how this is going to fit into their existing ecosystem.
No buzzwords, just AI-driven transparency. Got it. No, I'm just kidding. But no, that makes sense. But it does sound like it's a very sales-driven approach.
I would say it's half and half. We have really good business development people, and that really does help. There's no denying it. You have to have a strong sales team, and you have to have the right message out there. That's a big part of adoption and getting your product into the space.
It does make sense. Now, I understand you guys have an IEO coming up. Maybe you can tell us about that.
Sure. We have something big coming up, but it's on July 18 with BitMax. It's bitmax.io. They're one of the biggest exchanges in the world. We have a very small cap that we're raising. It's about $500,000. Our entire hard cap is actually $3 million, so it's pretty small. This is definitely something that we wanted to do. We changed a lot of things. We know that the market changed dramatically, so we reduced our hard cap dramatically.
Very nice. And so how has it been going so far in all of the prep? Like how is it different than, for example, the 2017 ICO rush?
Drastically different, especially if you guys remember 2017, companies were raising 30, 40, 50 million dollars. And everybody thought, wow, that's a lot of money. These guys are getting rich. But the fact is, many of these companies were spending a vast amount of it just to exchanges, just to get listed with many of these huge exchanges. Tokens were getting dumped. The entire environment was really not necessarily optimized, I guess you could say. Things changed quite a bit. And because of that, we're able to raise what we need. That's really what that's how things should be. And because of this IEOs, this allows us to go on with a big exchange without having to spend a vast amount of money doing so. And it's a collaborative effort. And following this, we have more exchanges, which we are also able to get on without paying a large sum of money. These things have really changed, and we can do a lot more with a lot less money these days.
I mean, I know some friends that did some quite successful ICOs, and they were telling me about how sort of disenchanting it was because their Telegram ended up getting flooded with people that did not care about the project. They only cared about flipping coins. Is the market still the same, or have you found that most people are just really hardcore believers in what you're doing?
The market has not changed in that respect. The Telegram channels are still basically a lot of people who want to make money, looking for a way to get in on this. Especially when you have high-profile exchanges like BitMax involved, they understand the value that they can bring when it comes to ROI. So that's something that we have to consider, and we have launched a significant education campaign, and we are launching a thought leadership program that's working with several universities to bring on folks that really do care about blockchain, cloud computing, and even the business sense of how to introduce this to businesses. So these things that we have to be a big part, we have to be involved with if we want to see long-term success.
And I don't see it as a bad thing that people want to make money off of innovative startup projects. I guess I'm curious as how do you resolve this agency problem? This problem of that the incentives have driven people to care only about making money and not about the actual project itself or the comparison. Like, do you think that we're sort of doomed to live in that for every decentralized project out there, or do you think that there might be a way out?
I think there is a way out, but I think that way out has to happen with some real adoption, because people will start believing once they start seeing projects in tech doing real things in industry outside of the blockchain space. that's going to be the point where they're going to realize this is not just about flipping. This project may have really long-term value. But to be clear, most of these folks, whether short-term or long-term, are still basically investors.
We never know. Maybe the adoption will come sooner than we think.
Absolutely.
So,
and a lot of this adoption, by the way, Nathan, I believe, doesn't even have to be from these folks. If our teams are able to get enough enterprises to get that demand going, it can be invisible, and we just have to be concerned about bringing more resource providers on board. That can help facilitate the process.
Thank you, Max Rye, the founder and CEO of DeepCloud AI. They're going to be doing an IEO on July 18th. You can check them out at deepcloudai.com, DeepCloudAI.com. Thank you, Max, for coming on the show.
Hey, thank you, Nathan. It was wonderful being on here.